The story of Onkelos. Onkelos bar Clonimus. In other girsos, it's Clonikus. But
the Targum guy? The Targum Onkelos?
The Targum Onkelos, yeah.
That guy.
Pretty famous guy.
Yeah. So Clonimus actually is quite interesting. It is one of the names of the very famous Ashkenazic family in the Middle Ages. So I don't know whether there's any connection.
If he's a convert, has he been a Jewish name?
It's not a Jewish name. It's Greek.
Well, it's
Doesn't
Greek.
Clonimus sound Greek to you?
Because normally we say Ben Avraham, though. We don't give credit to the...
But that was his name. It was his
Okay,
name. He Gayer. He converted to Judaism.
Before he converted.
Again.
Okay. Shadar Kesar Gunda de Romai Abasre. But Mashchinu Bikroi Igayor. The Caesar wanted him to be, obviously high crimes for converting to Judaism if you're a Roman nobleman. And so the Caesar wanted him arrested. So he sends a troop of soldiers to bring him back. And he draws them in with his charismatic citation of scripture. And they all convert to Judaism. Hadar Shadar Gunda de Romai Achrina Abasre Amar Lahu Lo Semru Le Velo Midi. He sends another troop of soldiers, and he says, listen, just arrest him, bring him back, don't talk to him. Ki havu shaklu va'azlu, amar lahu emalahu milsa ba'alma. As they arrest him and they're taking him, he says, do me a favor, I'm not talking religion now, let's just talk stam. He says, Ni piora nokat nura kame pipiora. Pipiora leduchsa, duchsa lahagmona, hagmona lekuma. We all know that there's a hierarchy, a chain of command, so that a lower-ranking soldier has to hold a candle in front, or a lantern, in front of a higher-ranking soldier. So, like a corporal holds for a lieutenant holds for a captain, and a captain holds for the general, and the general holds a lantern ultimately for the king, for the high ruler. But kuma minokat nura mikmeinshi. Does the king ever have to hold a lantern for anyone else? So Amri lay lo. So they said, of course not. No, the king would never hold a lantern for anyone. He's the highest ranking person. So Amr lahu HaKadosh Baruch Hu nokat nura kamei Yisrael. That's interesting. God, the Holy One, blessed is He, held a candle for the Jewish people in front of them the whole time. D'chsiv Hashem holech lifneim yomam v'goymer. This week's Parshas B'Shalach, that Hashem walks in front of them in a fire pillar. So Igyar Kulhu, that got them. This guy, Onkelos, he was the greatest kiruv professional who ever lived. I mean, just imagine, just in one sentence, you can get everyone to convert to Judaism. I don't know what his power was. Anyway, Hadar Shadar Gunda Achrina Abasre. So the Caesar sends another troop of soldiers. Amar lahu lo tishto midi bahadeh. He said, be sure you say nothing to him, not even casual conversation. So kinakti le va'az li chaza mezuzta demancha pischa. As they're taking him out of the house, Onkelos takes note of the mezuzah that's on the door of his house. And osif yadei Allah va'amar lahu mai hai. And he places his hand on the mezuzah, and he turns to them, and he says, gee, what is this? Amrulei, emalanat. So he piques their curiosity, and they say, well, you tell us, you obviously know it's some Jewish artifact. So Amr Lahu, minhago shel olam, melech basar v'dam yoshev bifnim va'avadav mishamrim oso mibachutz. V'ilo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, avadav mibifnim v'hu mishamrim mibachutz. He says, normally, a mortal king sits inside his palace, and he's got all of his sentries that work for him, guarding him on the outside. But God is just the opposite. His servants are on the inside, protected, and he stands and protects them on the outside. Shenemar Hashem yishmor tzeischa v'oecha me'atav v'ad olam. That Hashem will watch over your going out and your coming back forever and ever. And that's what the mezuzah represents, basically what he was telling to them. So Igyar, and they too converted. Powerful, powerful. So Sulo Shadar Basre. So the Caesar gave up. He said, I'm just losing more Romans to these Jews.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the end of that story. But we continue this whole idea of the rivalry between Rome and Israel. Vayomer Hashem la shnei goyim bevitnech. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav al tikri goyim elegeyim. So that when Hashem sends a prophet to Rivka and tells her you have two nations in your womb, do not read it as goyim, as nations, but rather as geyim, which really means prideful ones, or really, noblemen. There are two noblemen in your room. And who does that refer to? Ze Antoninus v'Rebbi shelo pasku mi'al shulchanim lo chazeres v'lo kishos v'lo tznon lo b'yemos hachama v'lo b'yemos hageshamim. This refers to the great nobility of the Roman ruler Antoninus and the Jewish ruler Rabbi, and to show how noble they were, their level of opulence. There was always horseradish, cucumbers, and radishes on their table, both throughout the summer and throughout the winter. So and this is before the days of importing produce from all over the world. So you can imagine how difficult it must have been to procure a cucumber in the middle of the winter. So they probably had to grow it either in hothouses or import it from faraway lands. And the reason why this was such a delicacy for one's diet is because it was healthy. As the master taught, radishes chop up the food when they're inside your belly. Horseradish turns it over, and cucumbers expand the intestines to make them healthier. These are all, it's like we take bran or fiber. All of these things are healthy. So v'hatana devei Rabbi Yishmael lama nikra shman kishum mivnei shekashan legufa shel adam kecharavos. But wait a minute, there's a brisa from Rabbi Yishmael that seems to say that cucumbers are not healthy. They're terrible for you. And the reason why they're called kishos is because they're kasha. They're very unhealthy. They're very bad for the body, like swords. Lo kasha habaravravi habazutris. The Gemara says there are two different kinds of cucumbers, or maybe it could be squash. It's the large ones are unhealthy, but the small ones, like the gherkins, are much healthier.
Maybe
If
zucchini.
you let your some of these fruits, they grow too big, they get bitter.
Yeah. So that could be a reference to what we're talking about. Sure. Okay. Yom Haleda v'Yom Hamisa. Let's go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah had told us that another time when you're not allowed to trade commercially with idolaters is when it's 3 days before a holiday, or 3 days before what? 3 days before the death of the king. In other words, they would commemorate the yahrzeit of the king, and they would worship idols during that time. But there was a machlokus in the Mishnah between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. Rabbi Meir said it makes no difference whether they burn the personal effects of this ruler, as long as they commemorate his anniversary of his yahrzeit. That's a day of idolatry, and therefore you can't trade with them. And the Chachamim argue, and they say no. It depends on the caliber of the leader. If he was a king such that when he died they burned his personal effects, so then that's a sign that they're going to worship idolatry on the anniversary of his death. But if they didn't burn his effects when he died, then he doesn't rank to have an idolatry. There's no religious significance to his death, and therefore you don't have to worry about avodah zara. So the Gemara now says, Michlal de Rabbi Meir savar lo shna misa sheyesh basreifa v'lo shna misa she'ein basreifa palchi bol avodas chochavim. So you see, Rabbi Meir seems to hold it makes no difference what they did, whether they burned this guy's personal effects or not. If he was a high-ranking person such that they commemorate his yahrzeit, it means they're going to worship idols. They're going to have some religious association to his yahrzeit. But almas reifa lav chukehi. So you see that burning a person's effects has no religious significance according to Reb Meir. It doesn't make a difference. But michlal de rabbanan savri sreifa chukahi. But that implies that according to the Chachamim, they say no. When you burn a person's personal effects, that's a religious rite, some kind of pagan rite, which therefore is associated with idolatry. And therefore, when they burned his effects, he became a religious figure, and therefore they worship idols. But that's problematic. Why is it problematic? Because v'hatanya sorfen al hamalachim v'lo midarchei ha'emori v'chukahi anan hechi sarfinan. But the Brisa tells us that when Jewish kings die, we burn their personal effects, and there's no problem of being imitative of the Gentiles. And if you're going to tell me that burning has some religious significance for the Gentile pagans, It says that you're not allowed to follow in their ways. And Tosfos points out that even if you could argue that at one time it was desirable burning the king's personal effects, like we'll see in a pasuk shortly by Tzidkiyahu, but you still shouldn't be allowed to do it once the Gentiles adopt it for their own. There's a concept like the matzeva. A matzeva, a one-stone monolithic altar, was something that Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov used to offer karbanos to Hashem. But then the Torah later says, "V'lo sakim lecha matzeva." You're not allowed to make a monolithic monument for Hashem as an altar. Why? Because the other nations have adopted that as a pagan rite. And so if burning the king's effects is a pagan rite, what right do we have into the times of the post-biblical period to burn a king's personal effects if it has now become a pagan rite?
So we should stop burning. We should stop doing Shabbos candles because the Christians do it in church everywhere. Just a comment.
No, but they don't.
We don't do flowers at funerals.
We don't do flowers at funerals. We don't.
Who said we ever
the
do?
Vilna
The
Gaon.
Gemara,
Yeah.
We used to.
hide the smell.
Yeah,
Oh.
the Gemara, the minhag, the Gra says there was a minhag up until almost modern times to bring trees into your house on Shavuos, and the Gra said in the
Wow.
18th century no more because that's become a pagan practice of
Christmas.
Christmas trees.
Wow.
So that's another
interesting.
example. So Ella de Kule Alma Sreifa Lav Chukahi Ella Chashivusi. So the Gemara says you're right. There is no religious significance assigned to burning a king's personal effects, but it's just a sign of his importance. If he's a VIP, out of honor to him, we will not allow anyone else to utilize his personal effects, and therefore we publicly burn them. V'hacha b'haka miflagi. So what's taka the machlokus between Reb Meir and the Chachamim? Reb Meir savar lo shna misa sheyesh basreifa v'lo shna misa she'en basreifa palchi b'la avodas kochavim. V'Rabbanan savri misa sheyesh basreifa chashiva lo palchi ba v'she'en basreifa lo chashiva v'lo palchi ba. The Gemara says, Reb Meir says, any dignitary's death that's commemorated is cause for pagan worship. They associate that as a religious day, and therefore it doesn't matter whether they burned his effects or not. And the Chachamim say no. If he was important enough to burn his personal effects, they elevate that person to a religious icon, and they use that as a day of worship. But if they didn't burn his effects, then it has only secular significance, but no religious significance. Gufa. Sarfin al hamalachim bein bo mishum darchei ha'amori shnemar bishalom tamus uvemisrafos avosecha hamalachim v'goymer. Now, how do we know that we burn a Jewish king's personal effects? Because this is what the Navi said to Tzidkiyahu. He said that you're going to die in peace, and when you die, they will burn all your personal effects just like they did to your ancestors who came before you. Ucheshem shesorfen al hamalachim kach sorfen al hanesim. And just like we burn the personal effects of a king, we also burn the personal effects of a Nasi, who is the leader of the Jewish people in a post-monarchical age, like Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Yeah. Okay. Shlomi. Umahim sorfen al hamalachim. So the question is, what do they burn of his effects? Mitasan uchlei tashmisha. Only his personal items, his bed, and all of his personal, items that he, let's say, his clothing, his weapons, and things like that. So, Umaisa shemes from Gamliel Hazakin v'zarfal of Onkelos Hager Shivim Manetzuri. And there's a story that when Gamliel the elder passed away, who lived in the times of Onkelos, the convert that we just learned about, burned 70 manas of silver coins. And the question, of course, is, the Gemara asks, but if it's only burning personal effects, why was Onkelos burning money? What is money? That money's not a personal effect. So ema bishivim anatsuri. So the personal effects that were evaluated at 70 manas of coins. Now the Gemara's question is, umidi achrina lo, you mean to tell me that only his personal effects and nothing else is burned? V'hatanya okran al hamalachim ve'ein bo mishum darchei ha'emori. There was a practice to handicap the animals of a king after he dies, so that they can no longer be used for riding and things like that. And there's no prohibition based on it being imitative of the other nations. So, since when is an animal a personal effect? So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Papa, sus sherachav alav. We're referring to as a horse that was specifically designated as the king's horse that he would ride all over with. That then is considered a personal effect because, every time the king would ride through town, they'd see him on that white Arabian steed, and they would know that that was the king. So therefore, they handicap the horse so that it can't ride properly afterwards.
Is that Lashon right out of Megillah Esther, by the way?
1 second, Bob, what were you going to say?
Wouldn't that be considered cruelty to the animal?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Tosfos asked this question. What about Tsar Balei Chaim? And Tosfos answers that you can justify Tsar Balei Chaim if it is for the sake of the honor of the entire Jewish people. In other words, yes, you need to rise to a high bar in order to inflict pain upon an animal, but if it affects the integrity of the entire Jewish people, their honor, then you can justify it. Okay? More to discuss. So the Gemara now says...
Did Nachashverosh say, Su sherachav alav? Those exact words?
He talked about a horse.
No, when he tells Mordechai he tells Haman to put Mordechai on the horse. What Lashon does he use?
Right. Well, Haman is the one who recommended it. Take the horse that the king normally rides on.
Does it say Su sherachav alav? Is it those words or no?
No, it's a little bit different. Okay. Uvehema tahora lo. So you mean to tell me that if it's not the king's personal horse, just like a regular animal in his stable, that's a kosher animal, like a cow or a sheep, there's no reason to disable that, to destroy it. Vehatanya ikar sheyesh ba treifa aser v'shein ba treifa mutter. Ve'zehu ikar shein ba treifa hamenasher parsoseh min ha'arkuv l'mata. The Brisa says explicitly that you're allowed to handicap an animal that is kosher, but only as long as you don't render it a treifa, that no longer kosher, but through that infliction of an injury. And how do you define that? You can only sever the sinews of the animal's legs below the knee. You cannot sever the sinews above the knee. Otherwise, you'll render it a treifa. Clearly, the discussion, we're talking about a treifa, we're talking about a kosher animal. Because if we were talking about a horse, it would be irrelevant. So the Gemara then answers, Tirgama Rav Papa ba'agalah hamoshechet b'karon. So we're talking about be'egla. We're talking about a calf who would draw the king's personal carriage. In those days, I guess, when we imagine a horse-drawn carriage, but in those days they would have carriages that were drawn by a calf or calves, and that would also be considered the king's personal effects as well. Okay, Yom Taglachas Zikano. After we learned all of the special days on the Roman calendar, we also learned in the Mishnah that if a person has a personal day of celebration, that's not a national day, but it's a personal day, so then the halacha is that you're not allowed to do business with him only on that day. 3 days before you could, but on that day of his personal celebration, you may not do business with him because on that personal day of celebration, he's also going to be praising his idolatry or worshiping idols. So what was an example? The day when he shaves off his beard, I guess when he grooms himself, that's a day of celebration. It's not like every day, we shave every day. In those days, you got a shave and a haircut, 2 bits, right? Whatever that's it. Right? But, that was, in the olden days, that was a special day. And also the other example is the day when you cut off your baloris. And Rashi on the Mishnah had said the baloris is a ponytail that they would grow for idolatry. They would let it grow for the entire year. And after a year, they would snip it off, throw it into the fire for idolatry. And that would be a form of idolatrous service. So on the day that he shaves his beard or cuts off his baloris, you can't do business with him only on that day. So Ibayalu, Eichi Ketani, Yom Tiglacha Sekano Vahanachas Baloriso, Odilma Yom Tiglacha Sekano Vahavaras Baloriso. So the question is, how do you understand the Mishnah? When we talk about the baloris, is it only when he cuts it off on that annual basis? Or is it also when every time he gets a haircut and the barber the stylist, cuts all around the ponytail every time he gets a haircut, making the ponytail more prominent. So that would be more frequent than just on an annual basis. That might be, once every few weeks that he gets a haircut like that. So is that also a day of celebration that I can't do business with him or not? Yes.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with Avodah Zara,
Well,
right?
right,
It doesn't take
the
the
shaving-
shaving.
Correct, but the idea here is that this pagan is going to give thanks to he'll go to the church and pray on the day that he grooms himself. That's why shaving his beard is also, even though it has nothing to do with idolatry per se, but he's going to go to church the day he gets a shave because he looks nice and presentable, right? So he's going to he'll thank his deity.
The irony is that today we shave for work.
Yeah,
And there's even a
different
heter,
world.
a chalamoyed to
Yeah.
shave for work.
It's a different world.
And here it's the opposite. If
Well, the
you
Kohanim
you
had-
can't shave to do business with them.
Kohanim had to cut.
I mean,
their
you can't
hair
do
for
business
work.
with them on the day they shave, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Kohanim had to cut their hair for work. They couldn't let their hair grow longer for more than 30 days.
Yeah, but we're talking about pagans over here.
No, what he's saying,
Oh, us, yeah. You're making,
Okay,
you're making
okay.
an analogy with...
Toshma, the Tanya to Ravayu,
Tough crowd.
Yom Tiglacha Zekana Banachos Beluriso, Yom Tiglacha Zekana Bavaros Beluriso. So the Brisa answers and it says, both, there are two Brises. One Brisa says the day he cuts off the bloris, and the other Brisa says the day he grooms his bloris by getting a regular haircut. So both of them are days that you're not allowed to trade with him. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Od Acheres Yesh Lahem Baromi, Echas L'Shivim Shana. So Rav Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, says there is another national holiday in Rome that is not mentioned in our Mishnah. And I'm going to tell you what it is, and it's only once every 70 years that they celebrate it. Now, I know of no independent corroboration outside of this account in the Gemara that there ever was such a holiday celebrated in Rome. But let's see, it's very, very unusual. Mevian Adam Shalim Umarkivan Osal Adam Chigir. They take a perfectly healthy man and they have him go piggyback on the back of a man who walks with a limp. He's lame. Okay? And that's supposed to represent Yaakov and Esav, because Yaakov walked with a limp after wrestling with the angel,
Right.
and Esav was perfectly healthy and hardy and strong. Umalbishan also, and so the idea is you put the healthy guy on top to represent that he's dominating Yaakov. Umalbishan also bigdei Adam Harisha. And we make the man on top, the healthy guy, wear the clothing of the Adam to represent, we know that Esav got that clothing of Adam Harishon from Nimrod, who had taken it from Adam's effects. And so, again, this is all midrashically alluding to this, the story of Esav.
It's the fig leaf figures.
No. Kosnos or, that God made him special. Umenichello barosho karkiplosho Rabbi Yishmael. We also know there that Rabbi Yishmael was one of the Asara Haruge Malchus, one of the 10 martyrs, and we know that famous story from the Yom Kippur liturgy that he was so handsome that the daughter of the Caesar ordered that they take off the skin off of his face, and she preserved it in oil to always look at the beautiful image of his face. So that Rashi says is still in the catacombs under the Vatican. Rashi says that. And so they would take that once every 70 years and place it on the head of this guy who represents Esav to show that we've dominated the Jews. The Tovule B'tzavare Miskal Reish Zuzah de Pisa, and then they would take this precious gem, says Rashi, that is the weight of 200 zuz, and they would tie it around his neck, again, to represent the luxury of Rome. They would pave the streets with some kind of very special stone. And they would announce as follows: anyone who tries to calculate the end of days is a faker, is an imposter. Basically what they're saying, you Jews always talk about the Messianic era. It's all baloney. Look at us. We're Rome. We're dominant and our empire will last forever. Achva de Marana Zaifana, the brother of our master Esav, is a forger. Dechami chami de lochami lochami. And whoever sees this celebration will see it, and whoever didn't come to see it will never see it again in his life, because it's once every 70 years. No one's going to live more than 70 years to be able to witness this. So, Mayahani l'rama b'rama usei u'l'zayafana b'zayafanusei. And they further announce what benefit is the deceiver in his deceit, and what benefit is there for the forger in his forgery. All references to Yaakov disguising himself as Esav and stealing, so to speak, the blessings from Yitzchak. Okay, so this is all the reference that the Romans are basically saying. The Jews to this day are being punished for trying to masquerade as Esav, and this is now their comeuppance.
But they're referencing our Chumash to get to this holiday.
Not only our Chumash, our Midrash, it's like they know Torah Shebichtav and Torah Shebal Peh,
It
right?
sounds much more like the church, medieval church,
It would seem that way, wouldn't it? Yes.
or the early
Right.
church.
Right.
It would have to
U'Mesayim
be after the conversion.
in Bahachi. And they finish the whole celebration by saying, Vai L'Dain Kad Yakum Dain. Woe to us when the other one arises. Meaning, the final acknowledgement is, after all's been said and done, we know that the prophecy was said to Rivka, Ula'om Mila'om Ye'ematz, V'Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir, that the one will always be ascendant, but when the other one rises up, the older one will serve the younger one. So we know that there will come a time when Esav will serve Yaakov. Woe to us that we should never see that time. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Amar Ravashi, Ichshilan Piyam L'Rishoyim. He says many times wicked people stumble through their own words. I Amru Zaifana Achva Demarana Kideka Amri. Hashta da Amri Demarana Zaifana Marana Gufe Zaifanahu. Because notice that the way that they pronounce this statement, that the brother of our master is a forger, right? So you could also read that as the brother of our master, the forger. So if they would have said, he is a forger, the brother of our master, then that would have been unambiguous. But the fact that they phrased it in this way, you could read it as the brother of our master, the forger, that Esav is the masquerader, Esav is the interloper, the one who usurped the power incorrectly. The Tana Didan, my time aloka chashiv la lahai. So I'm sorry, loka chashiv la. So the question is, why didn't our Tana include this celebration in the Mishnah? So the high de isa b'chol shasa v'shasa kachashiv, the lesa b'chol shasa v'shasa lo kachashiv. So the answer is because our Tana was only listing things that happen at least on an annual basis. If it's less frequent than annually, he didn't bother to even list it. Now, hani de romoi udeparsoi mai. So up in our Mishnah lists the Roman celebrations. What are some of the Persian celebrations? I mean, we need to know about that also because we live among Persians too, especially when this Gemara is being written. So, Mutradi, Vituriski, Muharanki, Umuharin. So these are the names. They're probably Persian names. If anyone knows Persian, or anyone who speaks Persian, you should ask him about these days. They're probably ancient Zoroastrian holidays. But the truth of the matter is that in speaking to some Iranians, they tell me that some of these Zoroastrian holidays are still celebrated in Iran today. So these names may still exist today, I don't know.
Yeah, they refer to one of them as a Persian festival with a slightly different name that was the beginning of the rainy season.
Yeah, they have seasonal holidays, exactly, to commemorate the old deities. Now, Hani de Parsoi Dromoi de Bavloimai. Okay, so you've told me the Persian holidays and the Roman holidays. What about the Babylonian holidays? We got to know about those too. So, Muharanki va'aknisa b'chenveni ve'eser ba'adar. So Muharanki is one of them. Aknisa b'chenveni is another one, and the 10th of Adar is another one. We don't know why. It could be associated with the story of Esther. Someone suggested. I don't know. I have no idea.
The Jewish calendar.
But
That's a Babylonian month.
Babylonian
Names.
yeah, Adar is a Babylonian word.
Oh,
As a
Yeah.
Steve,
but they call it 10th of Adar.
The 10th of Adar. Yeah,
They don't use it for their months.
yeah.
that's what. Yeah, they used
they
to.
did.
Babylonians call their months also Adar, Shvat,
Yeah,
whatever?
that's
We
where
took
we
it
got it
from
from.
them.
We took it from
Oh.
them.
We took it from them.
Oh.
There are no names of months in the Bible.
By number.
Right.
In the Chumash.
6th month, the first month,
Right,
second
right.
month.
So
Ziv,
the-
Chodesh Ziv.
Right, yeah, but the names that we use today are Babylonian
Right,
names.
right.
Yeah. Amar Rav Chanan bar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav, Armila Amar Rav Chanan bar Rava, Amar Rav, Chamisha Bate Avodas Kochavim Kavu and Hein. There are 5 fixed churches of idolatry. Now we'll see of what relevance this is. Elu Hein, they are as follows. Beis Baal beBavel, one is called the House of Baal in Bavel. Beis Nevo beKursi, in a place called Korsi, or Korsif, some say. Tar'ata shebemefeg, the idolatry of Tarasa in the city of Mefeg, and Tzrifa sheba Ashkelon, the idolatry of Tzrifa in the city of Ashkelon, Nashra sheba Arvia, and the Avodah Zara of Nashra that is in Arabia. Ki asa Rav Dimi, I wonder whether that's where the Kaaba is, I'm not sure. Ki asa in Mecca. Ki asa Rav Dimi hosifu alehen, because we know that Mecca used to be a hotbed of idolatry. The Kaaba used to be used for idolatry, and then the Muslims converted it into an Islamic icon. Ki asa Rav Dimi hosifu alehen yurid shebe'ein bechi and natvacha sheba'ako. And when Rav Dimi came, he said that there are two other permanent churches, which are the Yerid in Ein Bechi and Nadbecha in the city of Akko. Now, Ika da Amri nis Natbera sheba Akko. Some say not Nadbecha, but Natbera is the name of the idolatry. And Rav Dimi minahar da masni ibcha. He said it's the opposite, Yerid sheba Akko and Nadbecha sheba Ein Bechi. He just changed the idolatries in the cities. Amalei Rav Chanan bar Rav Chisda Rav Chisda mai kavuanhein. What does it mean that they're fixed churches of idolatry? Amalei hachi amaravua diimach kavuanhein laolam tedira kula shasa palchilu. He said, your grandfather, your mother's father, taught as follows. What it means is that they're constantly fixed, meaning that if you see anyone go into that church, you know that they're worshiping idols. In other words, it's a church that's open every day. And anyone who goes there is going to pray to the idolatry, and therefore you're not allowed to do business with that person who goes into that church. That's the basic idea of why you need to know about these churches.
Any significance to why two of them are in Israel?
Listen, remember, Israel is under Roman rule or Persian rule, depending upon what time in history.
Who's ruling in those temples? Jews, Goyim? Who?
Usually it's pagans. Yeah, it's Goyim.
What are they doing in Israel? They just
because it's under foreign rule. The whole Middle East is under foreign rule, certainly after the Churban.
No, but I thought it was just the authorities or the foreigners.
No,
the locals moved there too?
Yeah, you had a lot of Goyim in it. You had a lot of Arabs, a lot of everyone. Amar Shmuel, Bagola eno asr elayom edam bilvad. So, and Shmuel now tells us a huge chiddush. That which the Mishnah had said, that 3 days you're not allowed to do business with them before their holy day, is only in Eretz Yisrael. But in Chutz La'aretz, like Rashi says, where we are the minority, and we're so dependent upon trade with the Gentiles, then we don't prohibit 3 days before. We only prohibit the day itself. So v'yom edam nami miyaser. But wait a minute. If you're talking about Chutz La'aretz, then maybe even the day itself is not aser, because v'ha Rav Yehuda sharale l'Rav Brona lizvunei chamra or l'Rav Gidol lizvunei chitin b'chag sadataye. That Rav Yehuda permitted Rav Brona to sell wine and Rav Gidol to sell wheat on the festival of the peddlers, which was a pagan holiday. So Shiny Chag Sedatai de lo Kavia. The answer is that it's not a fixed holiday. It doesn't have a fixed date on the calendar, and therefore it's not considered to be a significant day of idolatry, and therefore, since it's not an annual event on one single day, we don't consider it to be a day that you're not allowed to trade with them. Let's go on to the next Mishnah. Ir sheyesh ba avodas kolchavim chutz mutter. If you have a city that has idolatry taking place within that city, you're allowed to trade with people that are on the outskirts of the city. And chutz avodas kolchavim tocha mutter. And conversely, if there's idolatry taking place on the outskirts of a city, you're allowed to go inside the city and trade with the people there. You don't have to worry about, maybe a commingling of monies and stuff like that. So, mahu leilech l'sham. So the question now is, what if there's idolatry taking place in a city? Like you go to Salt Lake City, on the day of their big Mormon festival. If Mormon is, I'm not saying Mormon is Avodah Zara. I'm just saying just to use an analogy, right? So on the day that they have their big Mormon Tabernacle Choir parade, whatever it is,
somewhere in New Delhi or something like that.
Right? Okay, or whatever. Okay, so the question is, are you allowed to go to that city? So the Mishnah answer is Bizman shahaderech miyuchedes la'oso makom aser, v'imhay yachol halich b'lamakom acher muter. So it depends. If there's only one road that goes from where you are to Salt Lake City, and there's no other road out except to go back the same way you came in, so then it's Marasain. It looks like you're going specifically to Salt Lake City to worship idols, and therefore you cannot do it. But if Salt Lake City is a way station, like you come from the east to Salt Lake City, and then from Salt Lake City you can get onto Route 15 to go all the way to Las Vegas, so then so then it's perfectly fine.
Isn't that Avodah Zarah?
I was saying, except that you're going to Las Vegas.
Right. That's a whole other question, right? With the Barstow, right?
You don't watch a hockey game.
Right.
Okay.
So then it's okay because it's not Maris Ayin that you're going dafka to that city for Avodah Zarah. Okay. So the Gemara will just do a couple more lines. Heichi dami chutzala. What is the definition of being on the outside of the city, such that if the inside of the city has Avodah Zarah going on, it's okay to trade with the people outside? So Amar Rav Shimon ben Lakish mishum Rabbi Chanina kugon atlozer shal Aza. It could even be as close as the animal market right outside of Gaza City. So Rashi explains that Gaza City was a hotbed of idolatry because the Philistines used to live there. And as a result, you couldn't go into Gaza City periodically, but you could, certainly don't go there today, but you could go outside to the bazaar where they would sell animals and you could trade there, because even though it's right mamish on the outskirts of the city, we still permit it, we're still lenient. V'ika da'amri ba minei Reb Shimon ben Lakish me Rabbi Chanina at loza shel Aza mahu. So some say that Reish Lakish actually asked Rabbi Chanina, is it okay to trade in the animal market right outside of Gaza? So Amar lei lo halachta litzur miyamecha v'reisa yisol v'kochavim shesafsu shtei kederos al gabe kira echas v'lo chashu lehem chachamim. He says, well, didn't you ever see a situation where a Jew and a Gentile, an idolater, place their respective pots on top of the same stove and they cook? And the Chachamim have no objection, right? This is the practice in Tyre, right? In Sur, it's a city where both Jews and non-Jews live, and they coexist peacefully. And the rabbis don't object if a Gentile cooks on one burner on the stove and a Jew right next to him cooks on the other burner, and there's no problem. So therefore, even if they're mamish adjacent to each other, there's no problem. Now, the Gemara has to further clarify what the analogy really means. There's 3 different possibilities, but that'll be in Mirz Hashem in tomorrow's daf. Have a wonderful day.